Good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started here a bit quick. I know we have some exciting conversations coming up. My name is Evan. I'm the founder of hiitide. I just want to take a quick moment of appreciation and consider all of you people coming here together tonight to have these hard conversations and rich conversations about relationships and connection. It's especially inspiring when you think about how far we've come. I mean, we've all spent all this time through education talking a lot about math and science, but have put aside these harder conversations about how to be a better human, you know, how to manage our stress and emotions, how to express love. We've thrust out into the world with the ability to do long division, but struggle to have honest conversations, you know? Fortunately, because of thought leaders like Mark and Dr. Solomon, we are having these conversations now. And through partnerships like we have with VIBEUP, creating these online and offline experiences, and hiitide, we are trying to bring this knowledge and wisdom and turn it into application. So you can fundamentally change how you approach yourselves and each other. So what we have next is Luke Jensen, the founder of VIBEUP, is going to lead us through meditation, and then we'll get right into the conversation. So, Luke, come on up here, my man.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's wonderful being here with you today. It's been an interesting journey to get to this exact moment with you guys. 5 years with VIBEUP. It was never meant to be a business. It was meant to bring people together offline who are living a similar lifestyle, interested in wellness. Maybe they go to the same classes, but there's no space except maybe an awkward elevator conversation or locker room after your workouts. And 200 people came to the first event in January 2015, and we knew that we had something that not only people wanted more of, but it was bigger than us. And so 5 years later, many events, a lot of journeys, we're finally realizing not only why we're here, but how to do it. And it's getting into these deeper conversations. So I'm going to do a little context within that journey that brought us to this moment, and then lead us into a little relationship with our breath meditation to bring us into the relationship conversation and loving bravely with Alex and Mark. For me, it's been a now 36-year journey getting to this point. I was born in the woods of Wisconsin in a small farm, literally born on the farm. I had to start fires if I wanted eggs for breakfast. No joke. Anybody else have to do that? I didn't know it was that weird until about 5 years ago too. I started my first business about 20 years ago in the entertainment industry. Some of you know that. There's a boy band reference that I shouldn't mention, but I just did. And it taught me that dreams come true. It taught me that I loved creating them and connecting people. And so when that ended, long story short, tonight's not about me, but I learned that bringing people together and connecting dots and the way the universe works is if you know a solution that you're looking for, the universe has the variables. And so if you know how to line them up, do the work, and do the action, you can create your dreams. And it's a beautiful gift that we're in awareness of, yet we're coming into a beautiful place in society and history to be able to really do that. And so to be on the stage sharing it with everybody is definitely a dream come true. Throughout that journey, the last 4 or 5 years especially, I've been seeking. I learned that my purpose was to connect conscious community, but I didn't know exactly how to do that and why that was supposed to happen. And so I've spent hundreds of hours over the last 3 years, especially almost a year out of the country, seeking and going to workshops, studying everything from neuroscience to meditation, and got my yoga teacher training this year finally, and learned the power of the voice and what yoga really means. I didn't even know that there was a tip to the iceberg that is yoga. And as Sarah so beautifully put this morning or this afternoon with you guys, it's the union. And here we are in that union. And that union starts within, right? And so that really became a curiosity curiosity for me. Where does all that come from? Where's the history of life? How are we on this planet that's spinning 1,000 miles an hour, rotating 67,000 miles an hour around a gaseous ball that's trying to explode outward? Well, we're in a Milky Way galaxy that's moving at 550,000 miles an hour. Just anchor in that, how beautiful this all is. We're stuck by gravity to it. And so that gravity got me thinking about how then have we come out to stand more erect, to now be living from our higher brain, a more open heart. And so I pressed into that question. To me, that came down to, how did life start? And they say life started in the sea. So where did life in the sea start? And it's oxygen. And so an interesting story on that, I'll try to speed up a little bit here and then lead us into meditation, is the water cells photosynthesized from the sun hitting it, formed bacteria on them. They sank to the bottom of the bed floor. They accumulated. They formed a byproduct, oxygen, that floated to the top of the seafloor. And literally that oxygen pushed out of water to create our atmosphere. Now this is hundreds of millions of years ago. But because of the power of oxygen coming from sun and water, not only was there oxygen, but mitochondria, the single cell, could consume oxygen, and that's where the multicell was born. Now look at us, 70 trillion cells on average, give or take 10 or 20. But there's 4 quadrillion bacterial cells, which means we're almost 50 times more bacteria and biology than we are human cells. How interesting is that? I think it's pretty interesting. And then there's 14 quadrillion mitochondria. So the fact of that is just that there's so much more going on in us, and that we're coming into awareness of. And this whole movement that we are all a part of to be here in this moment having this conversation is representative of. I think it's a really beautiful thing. So to think about then the oxygen that's given us life and that gives us life and the power of that is something I want to anchor us all in now in this space as we come into this talk with Alex and Mark. So if you will please keep that in mind through the next minutes as it leads through. Find yourself now in a little bit more seated position, comfortable position. You're welcome to sit back. If you want to go on your back, stay seated, or any other comfy place, take a moment. You guys all look pretty comfy already. So if you close your eyes, take a deep breath in. Hold it at the top, please. Slowly let it out. Take 2 more like that. Breathing in, holding at the top. Feeling the hundreds of other people here, the thousands of people on the live feed. You let your exhale out. 1 more big breath at the top. Now, if you will, keep your breath going. Bring your hands to your heart center. On your inhale, see if you can feel your breath expanding in your lungs. Maybe your hands start to lift from your chest or start to move apart ever so slightly on your inhale, and on your exhale, they come back together. If you can start to imagine it, you can feel that sense of energy between your hands coming from your heart. If you could accept the fact that our lungs are created to bring oxygen into our blood, into our brain, through our heart, feel that energy. Feel the oneness and the union of our soul, our spirit, and everything around us. Every breath in, expand, say the word here to yourself, and exhale. Bring your hands together and say now. Inhale, here, and exhale, now. Please keep this mantra going. Feel free to choose another if it suits you. We are here now together. From 1812, there are 1 billion people on the planet. 1912, there are 1.5. 2012, there are 7.5 billion people. We've become a superorganism that has created the life we live in. We are creating the life we live in tomorrow. We now know we have that responsibility. It's unique. We're in it together, here and now. We're here now, together as a community, finding our purpose. If you don't know your purpose yet as an individual, you're seeking it. You're on your path, that's okay. Don't let any of the fear take you over or take you out of your bliss. Find that bliss. It's in you. It's in this breath. It's in the energy that's channeling through you. Be that. You are that. Share that. Find your bliss. Breathe in here. Exhale now. Feel yourself rooted into the ground. Feel the ground rooted into the earth. Feel the energy of Mother Earth underneath you or from her. Feel the spirit in your lungs and every breath. If that's God, Mother Earth, Chi, Prana, whatever you call it, feel the spirit, the energy, the source of all life in every breath, in and out. We're energy beings. It's quantum physics. We're here to be educated. We're here to practice. We need to practice that education. We need to commune around that practice. The strength of this community is needed. The mass gravity wants to bring us down. It's by design, but we're ascending. The strength of community keeps you rising up. We're at a very unique time in the next decades that come. Are we going to rise up? Or are we going to rise down? I choose up. I think you're here to choose up. You've chosen up to be here. We're here together. One superorganism on this planet. I bet that this room is the most high-vibe room in all of Chicago. Every inhale, breathing in, here. Every exhale, now. The power is in every choice. Get grounded back with Mother Earth. Get out of those rubber sole shoes. Go touch a tree. Eat some non-mechanical foods. Get more hugs. We're energy beings from Earth. And beside that. Next inhale, big breath, biggest one yet. Hold it at the top. Take one more sip in. Feel it go into every cell. Feel your heart emanate, connect with those around you. Ever so slowly, keep your eyes closed. Start letting yourself feel back into this moment. Feel your body. Keeping your breath in, deep, here, now. Here, now. I invite you to ever so slowly bring your hands down at your pace. Feel free to start moving around ever so slightly. Bring some more movement back to your spine. Feel it maybe as a blade of black grass. There's no wind, but there's a current energy. Maybe you can feel that. Keep your breath going. Slowly bring some movement now back to your body. Return your body. Feel free to open your eyes. I see a lot of smiles. Feel free to make those bigger. Feel free to share with somebody next to you. I'm going to invite you to do some subtle cat-cow movement now. Just gently bring it open your chest and forward. On your breath, inhale. And exhale. Move back. And come forward. Exhale back. Feel free to make any organic movements to the sides. Do a little cat-cow. Loosen up. Come back in with your hands towards center, please. Bring them to your third eye center or your prefrontal cortex. Take one deep breath in through your lungs into your brain. Feel the spot where your fingers are in your breath. As we bow forward in respect, honor, and love of each other, love like me, honors and respects love like you. Namaste. Again, we're here as one community, one species on one planet. I hope to inspire that conversation more. You'll find us January 11th at our next big event. We're here to be educated, to practice that education, and to be a community in that practice. Starts within. On that note, I'm very, very excited for who I get to announce, a couple friends of mine. But before I do that, I ask you all to say hi to somebody next to you that you don't know. Introduce yourselves. Take a deep breath, say hi. Who are you? Where are you from? Don't be shy. Okay, that's enough. Okay, you can keep going. How's everybody feeling? Don't say anything if you're feeling good. All right, let's clap if we're feeling good. It's been a pleasure and an honor working with you guys. If you will let me say a few names and then we applaud at the end, I want to say thank you to the sponsors. Without them, we wouldn't be able to be here at Block 37 for working with us to get this beautiful space. Mode Events for putting together the beautiful room. My soon-to-be best friend, maybe he is already, Justin, my VP of Operations, where are you, Blue? I love you, man. To hiitide, building a platform to help cultivate healthy habits, community, coaching, all in one forum. And last but not least, you guys for being here today. Please give it up for everybody in this room and everybody out of there. And without further ado, give it up to Mr. Mark Rhodes and Dr. Alexandra Solomon.
Everyone feeling pretty rooted in their chakras? I don't drink anymore. I feel like Topo Chico, like the new Budweiser for me. I feel like I'm drinking a beer, but then maintaining my mind. You know? Have you ever drank too much where all of a sudden your language starts to be hindered? Just me. Just me. So I'm going to talk for around 10 minutes, and then Allie's going to talk right after, and then we're going to do a Q&A for whatever remainder time. Does that work for everyone? Yeah. If one of you said no, I'd be like, that's too bad. What's happening? Where's the camera for the live feed, just so I don't... Oh, that's a weird... The wide angle lens I have. Should I sit down then? Is that best? For the group? Hey, what's up? You guys, sorry. Okay. I'll just sit there. I've been working out, so I wanted to show my booty this time. Love you too. I feel like I'm in a boy band for a second now. Okay, so I want to make sure I honor the time here. I could just waste time easily. So in that meditation, it really brings such a level of silence to the room. As most of you know, who here follows me on Instagram? Woo! And if you don't, just so you know, it's okay to follow the crowd. Who here came and didn't know what they were coming to? Well, there was quite a few people. That's awesome. There's a certain level of courage that's required to lead into that space of like, I'm going to do a meditation and be brought down and learn that oxygen came from the ocean floor. That's pretty cool. So many miracles that we don't even think about. You know, we could be here this afternoon, evening, and not even give it a second thought. That it's just what happened. I just had a Saturday that was open. I did a book club. I read Alexandra's book. I'm here. Or, and I definitely like this perspective, that everything is so divinely orchestrated. And there's so much going on that you're not beside the person you're beside just because, or the people that you've met, or the things that you've heard. You might hear things from me or from Alexandra or from, you might have already heard a number of things that just, there's something about a truth that just resonates for us, you know? Like where you read a quote or you're in a book and then if you had, you know, it's like if someone said, we're gonna do yoga and then you're gonna talk 10 years ago, I would have been like, let's just do the talk. I don't know what I'll talk about because I wasn't really at that space. So it shows you how much we shift. And I think one of the greatest forms of freedom we can have is just to allow what we believe and our identity to be fluid. To always shift. Because that way, if you learn something that is in conflict with what you know, you'll be open to integrating that instead of clinging tighter to what you used to know. And we see this in politics, we see this in religion, we see this in so many things. My friend Louis Alaro once said, to live as if one of the core pillars that you base your identity on is dead wrong. And it's usually the one that you cling to most. I didn't expect that this time of year I would be single. I did not expect that I'd go through a breakup in the beginning of September. Now, of course, when a breakup happens, it's almost like, I didn't see it coming. We're like, yeah, okay, buddy. Like, we all feel it coming in some sense, right? But I think when it actually happens, it just, for me, I'll speak to my experience, it reminded me a lot of death. And I know that word is sort of heavy within at least our culture, not all cultures, or all societies. But I was sort of thrust into a moment I didn't expect. And the ending of it was, it felt like I have been processing so many more endings than just the relationship. After that person should stop. Right? Yeah. They should let their anger die. They should be right here. They should have done that meditation. So when I went through the initial part of the breakup, I could feel like I was supposed to go to the forest. And I went to this cabin in Mount Baker, Washington, where there's no cell service. And I hadn't taken a digital break since I began Instagram. And I bet you today is probably the 6-year anniversary of like my first post. It was kind of crazy. I think it's today. Thank you. Just so you know, when I first posted, I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And I was like, I'm just gonna, and people were like, you can't write long form with quotes, it's for photographers now. I'm like, people have been telling me what to do my whole life, fuck that. Right? And it's just that small voice that was like, you have to do this thing. Even though I didn't know what it was, and that's the first step. So I go to the forest. I'm like, I'm gonna take 5 days of a digital detox, which I had not done. My sister is like, listen, Tonto, like you can't just, actually I apologize, sorry about that. But either way, that's what she called me. And she was like, you can't just go to the forest and just detach in a place with no cell service and expect us to be okay that you're hiking on your own. I was like, that is actually very logical. So she's like, you have to check in with me on FaceTime. Just tell me where you're going, how long it's expected to take, and when you'll be back. I'm like, okay, I can do that. And I went on the first day on a hike in the rainforest, and I was sitting beside a river. And it was like 5 days after the breakup began, or happened. And I just sat there and I was like, how did I get here? And, you know, I mean, sort of, I don't know if you guys know those moments where you're just like, what the fuck? Like, what do you want? What do you need from me? Like, I don't have any more in me. Like, just surrender, right? Just throw yourself. And there's so many nudges before the cosmic 2x4, as I call it. And when I'm sitting there, I just got hit with this message that was like, at what point did you think you were God? That you could force a story that wasn't yours? And I was like, that sucked. But it was one of those truths of a voice that you know is not necessarily yours. You know what I mean? The ones you can't ignore. Even though you want to, you're like, I'll just have a tequila and pretend that. Now you have a Topo Chico and you gotta pay attention. Right? Oh, fuck. I quit drinking last January, and then, you know, I might have dabbled in THC a few times, but then I realized THC, for a more common term, marijuana, might have sort of was becoming a similar tool. So I stopped that too. But I was sitting by this river and I just thought, like, show me the path, I'll walk it. And I see this, I'm not even making this shit up, this is a true story. I wasn't high either. But I see this white butterfly fly up the river. And I hadn't Googled, like, what is a white butterfly before, you know, you do that after. I asked some friends the other day, like, what is a white butterfly? What is a white butterfly? What does the butterfly do? One of my friends had a butterfly tattoo. I'm like, you don't even know what a butterfly does? Like, they help pollinate flowers, they become food. Obviously, they make our world very beautiful too, even more. And I think to myself, like, the butterfly doesn't think about what its job is. You know, it just is going where it's going to go. It's meeting its fate. And it helps make this whole thing happen. And I thought to myself, like, what do we do? You know, there's something about consciousness that makes us think we're separate from everything that's going on. That we are not part of Mother Nature, that we are not part of the cycles of life. And that makes us not feel like things are divine, right? We separate them from the miracles that happen all the time when we think that we are just here, we get to use our planet, we get to do what we want. We don't see the miracle in the people we choose and the conflicts we have. You know, to me, all relationship is, and I don't mean to like that as a minimization of relationship, but to me what relationship is a constant invitation back into oneself, into self-inquiry, into who am I, into what have I learned, what have I been taught. And the ever most important question is, what can I get better at? You know, when we're in the same patterns, it's not because they just happen. You know, in Arizona, be like, I attract unavailable people. It's just everybody in Chicago is unavailable. Right? There is a design here, make a different choice, different life. It really is that simple. And that night I was sitting in the cabin and I was at the end of my, I don't recommend necessarily when you're in the deepest of pain, going a digital detox to the rainforest in the cabin, but I have to say it was obviously exactly what I needed. And I was sitting there, I watched Our Planet and might have eaten a 5 milligram THC CBD gummy. That's legal in Illinois? I was in Washington, and it basically is served like a local gas station. And I was watching our planet, and I was just thinking there was these birds flying, and they were saying that like monkeys eat the berries, poop the berries, helps the trees spread around the forest, and then birds fly these fucking seeds everywhere and poop them as well. Great reason to poop. That's good. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, like, we're on this planet, we're a species that dies. How the fuck is this all even real? Right? There's no, that loop ends up in, you either end up feeling like it doesn't make sense, or you go to sleep, right? And I was sitting there and I was thinking to myself, I'm not kidding you, I was at the edge of my mind and I was like, is this what a psychotic break is? Yeah, it was scary. And then I was like, I should go to bed. So I went to sleep. I woke up the next morning, and the first breath I had, I was like, thank you. Thank you for giving me another day. I'm sad, I'm fractured, but I'm paying attention. And ever since that experience, I've been paying attention. I thought that I was before, and I really thought that I was. But now I see that when you sort of make allowances, I might be using the wrong words here, but these are the words that are coming. When you sort of allow one part of your life to be at 90% of what's possible, which is not to indicate that I was settling for a person, but for an experience at the time, then all of a sudden you can't see what 100% is in any area of your life, because you have to disconnect from 100. And when all of a sudden I was sort of in this fractured open state, I could see all these areas of my life that I'd like settled for a lesser version of myself. And then I was like, I'm gonna rescue everything. I had bought this car that I thought I was gonna love, an old Bronco. And I mean, I thought I was gonna love this thing. And as soon as I got to that moment of recognition, I was like, I have to sell it. And I sold it to the first person who contacted me, and it's a dream car. We always want it. And I realized that sometimes the dream you have is not the dream you had. And you have to allow for those things to change. You have to allow endings. All of them. It's all just knowledge, right? We're human. We're here to make mistakes, learn things. The key, though, is that we have to learn. We have to change, we have to grow, we have to expand. You can't like go through something and then pretend you didn't learn anything. And then you end up on a date with another unavailable person, right? Those are knowing laughs, is there. Having done it. And so I sat there and I just thought, like over that week, I was just like, I didn't come here to fuck around. I didn't come for this life that I know it, this one, and I'm sure Luke will walk us through another meditation where I feel like I am 12. But it didn't. And if you're here, you didn't. And so I invite you to explore in that space of silence who you are. And if you didn't have your name, if you didn't grow up where you grew up, if you didn't have the experience you had and what your story is supposed to be about you, and what it's supposed to have shaped you, who would you be? And even in that space, just that moment, is the voice, is you. You know, I listen to Wayne Dyer a lot. Anyone like Wayne Dyer? Yeah. Little shout out to you, buddy. Mm-hmm. And I love the one line, I mean, he has lots of cool lines. I love this one line of his, don't die with the music still inside you. And so if you embrace the fact that there are endings, including our own, and that these are our last moments, as we know them, there's nothing promised beyond now. I mean, gosh, just the embracing of that now frees us all. You have nothing to lose. You got nothing to lose by having the conversation. You have nothing to lose by giving birth to all of you. You have nothing to lose, except for what you're meant to lose. And that's such a different way to live. Because if I told, which I did tell my parents this, you could do anything. They're like a couple of immigrants that moved. My mom moved from Ireland with nothing. My dad grew up really poor too. They would be like, you can't do anything. I'm like, yeah, you could just like start an Instagram and do it. That's like I rode a horse to school, Mark. You couldn't date 5 people at a time. There was only 4 people in the town. You know? And how do you date 5 people when you have to write letters to all of them? And then show up with a horse. And their dad has a gun. Although in here I saw there's no gun signs on all the doors. I'm like, is this really a thing? I mean, Canada, right? We don't even have an army. Thank you for having one for us. Well, allows us to act like, yeah, we don't have an army. You guys are so aggressive. I'm like, can you help us out? It's like, and then we'll go back to criticize. So, in light of that, I want to say thank you for being here, and to VIBEUP, and to hiitide, and to all the sponsors to allow us to have this conversation, and to my good friend, Dr. Alexandra Solomon, who has written just the most beautiful book. It has another one on its way. Loving Bravely is the first one. We'll get to the second one after. And I want her to share now too some of her music. So please. Don't say that because I'm yes, that now.
So working with Mark, collaborating with Mark is like, you know that thing, it's like a tool, it's called a stud finder, which would also be a great name for a dating app.
There's a lot of startup people.
Stud finder, and all that. So like, you know, you're on the wall and you're like, moving the thing back and forth, it's like beep, 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 beep. So when Mark and I were prepping for today, we're like, well, just, you know, tell a story that has a lesson. And I'm like, what is my, oh, it's right there. Yeah, okay, so I'll just go to the thing that's most, you know, raw and real for me right now, and we'll just talk about that. Good? That's how you do it, my friend, you know, there's no beating around the bush. So I'm, for those of you who don't know me, I'm a psychologist and an author and work at Northwestern and have for years and years and years, and I've got my team of graduate students with me today, and I'm blessed and grateful for the work that I do, which gives me chances to come back again and again and again to my own journey, my own story, which is that I've been married to the boy who lived across the hall from me freshman year in the dorm, and we've been married for 21 years, and we have 2 teens. And our teens are 15 and 17. And our 17-year-old has been dealing with some complex developmental challenges since he was a toddler. And the challenge changed as he changed, the developmental challenges. So as he changes, the challenges change. And so when he was first diagnosed, like all moms of special needs kids do, I went to Google and just learned everything about everything, and I joined support communities, and I just dove into what is this? And then I started to teach and write about families with special needs kids. I would talk to audiences of parents of special needs kids and talk about how to keep your marriage strong and healthy and well, because parents of special needs kids have a uniquely high rate of divorce, which we'll talk about in a moment. And I would talk to therapists about how to care for families like ours. And then I got to a point when he was early in elementary school where I just hit a wall, and it was for 2 reasons. One is it stopped feeling like my story to tell, right? Is it my story? Is it his story? But then the other thing was, rather than being a thought leader or a teacher or researcher in this space, I need to be the mama. So, so I really left that part of my work and changed directions. But when I was using my stud finder, I was like, okay, this is what I want to talk about today. Because we're we're just in a chapter that has been really challenging around how to support him and how to work with all of what gets stirred in us in the face of a life stressor. And so when you talk to a couples therapist or relationship experts, they're often talking about healthy communication skills or fighting fair and having tools for difficult conversations, which is part of it, but those tools are only as good as their ability to help each partner understand what is the pain point in me that this challenge out here is evoking, right? The challenge is out here. The lost job, the sick parent, the special needs kid. The challenge is there. And what needs to happen is for each partner to be willing and available to look inside and see what is it about me and my story that makes this challenge hard. So a real trigger for me is when people say, we got divorced because our child has this diagnosis. We got divorced because whatever. We got divorced because the container of the relationship was unable, for whatever reason, unable to expand to hold the degree of pain and complexity that life challenge brought to you. That's really what's happening, right? So think of an example, partner A loses their job, and partner B, and so the conflict goes like this. Partner B comes home and says, did you look for a job today? And partner A, either explodes or retreats. And it's because, and that conflict is about the need to unpack and thread down to what is the painful story that the job loss evokes, right? Evokes an A and evokes an B. And parenting, and so sort of like, what is the degree to which we are willing to allow the life stressor, the shit hitting the fan, to crack us open? And parenting in general will crack you open. So parenting in general cracks you open. And parenting a kid with special needs cracks you open. But the thing about being cracked open is it's hard to allow yourself to be cracked open. It's hard to see your partner get cracked open. And it's hard to let your partner see you be cracked open. The beauty and the pain of being in an intimate relationship is there's nowhere to hide. You can't hide. Your partner knows you're coping. They can see you're hitting another glass of wine. They can see you're lost on your phone. There's nowhere to hide. It's that part of the pain is that the challenge feels like hours and hours alone, but there's somebody right there who's watching how you're coping or not coping. And so in terms of how Todd and I approach the challenge of parenting our son differently. We have different temperaments. We have different life stories. We have different skills that we bring to the challenge of parenting this complicated kid. And there are times where it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. He's a thinker, I'm a feeler. He's strategic, I'm emotional. He's the primary breadwinner, I'm the primary caregiver. Like I see it. We are a well-oiled machine. I see the flow, I see how his gift of strategy is really important when you're dealing with a school system and a medical system and a this and a that. You need to have a strategy. And I see that my piece is important too, being able to have a finger on the pulse of how everybody's doing. So in our moments of flow and connection, it's beautiful. The differences are beautiful. But the shadow is, in moments of disconnection, I'm at risk of going to a story that I'm all alone. This is mine to figure out, mine to manage. I have to figure this out on my own. And that's a story that I bring into our marriage from childhood, when there were times when I was little that I really was alone. I really did have to figure out stuff on my own. So it's a coping strategy that got me, there are adaptive aspects of being able to kind of hunker down and be like, I got this. But in a marriage, it doesn't work. It doesn't, that disconnection. And from that place of disconnection is where so much relational trauma happens, right? That's the place from which infidelity happens. It's often the birthplace of lots of gnarly stuff that couples get into, is getting locked into the shadow side of however you cope with a life stressor. And so I know that my work is to come back again and again with my compass north, my heartbeat, is remembering that the container is our marriage, and we are in it together. And we cope differently, we bring different skills, we have different roles, but we're in it together. And that's the place, that's my pathway back in to connection and to coping. The thing about coping, when we're in the trenches, like in that, dark night of the soul, in the challenge, the thing about coping is what we need to do is the next right thing. That's what coping is about. It's like, what is the next right thing? And we get sunk, and what we do is rewind and go to, if 5 years ago we wouldn't have, then we wouldn't be here now. And if 3 years ago we had it, then it wouldn't be here now. That rewinding sinks us. And then the fast forwarding sinks us too. Like, what's next? What happens 5 years from now? What happens 1 year from now? So coping is the next right thing. And the last thing I'll say about coping is coping has these two faces, sort of like, to go back to yoga, like an inhale and an exhale. One part of coping is just getting shit done, right? Making phone calls, making a plan, and having a hard conversation, like approaching the problem or the stressor, addressing it. That's one piece of coping, right? Is to approach. But another piece of coping is the exhale. It's the stepping away. For a couple, that means making love, going for a walk, having dinner, playing a game, whatever that looks like. And that's coping too. And it's not escape, it's restoration. And it's what couples need to ask is sort of, how do we stay strong? How do we stay together during this difficult thing? How do we keep this difficult thing, my job loss, your mom's illness, our kids' challenges? How do we keep this difficult thing from eroding connection? What do you need and what do I need? And can we honor that those are maybe different things, but that there's no hierarchy of coping. There's no hierarchy, there's not better or worse, there's just different ways of coping. And that is the end of my story. So that was what felt really present for me, was to talk to you guys about that idea that there's no perfect marriage, there's no perfect ending to a little talk. There is just doing the next right thing and staying open to what the challenge is bringing you. And I think I feel sometimes the full force of my resistance, like I want to stop my feet, like, no, I don't want this to happen. And we can have that, but then we have to move into the whole thing about what are the lessons, what are the blessings, what are the opportunities, what can I learn from you, what do I see in you as you face this challenge, what can I allow you to see in me as we face this challenge, and that's where the growth happens.
I love that. Interestingly, my experience with coping is that what you were saying about observing the story or the past or the wish for something, we look back at these previous whys in a row where we chose one thing and then we feel like, why didn't I choose the other thing? We'd be in this different place, we'd be happier. We don't actually know that's true. We just love to torture ourselves, right? We never choose the story where we're like, oh, if I did that other choice, then it'd be in a different place, and it would be, And then that idea of sort of catastrophizing the future too. And I feel like that biological pull to both of those stories, like I observe those things happen in my own mind and then come back to like, just show up for today, like just be present to today. And in relationship, it's so fascinating because as you're saying, we bring these two different experiences, these two, and to navigate that then in the family system with two other humans or however many other humans. So in your experience with watching your and Todd's different experience with managing or coping with Ryan, how do you see within each other's story as it shows up and then do you know what I mean? Like how do you contain that moment to be different? Like just to like do it right or whatever right even means. You know what I mean?
It is for me the most important thing is to catch myself starting to tell the story that I have to do it alone. Because the moment I get lost, and I have to do it alone, oftentimes, you know, I'm the mom, it's a complicated story for me. But what happens when I start down that story is I contract and I pull away, and then we're lost to each other. And so what I've gotten increasingly better at doing is noticing when the story comes up and saying, that's my trauma, not my truth. That's a huge difference. And when I can catch that, hand on my heart, deep exhale, I'll go look at a picture of a little, you know, young version of me and be like, that girl is alone, this woman isn't alone. I'm not alone. And the more I turn toward him, the more I remember, like the more I make myself available for him to come to me as well. So that's what it's catching it. And I don't know that ever, I mean, oh my God, I'm 46 now, and I'm not going to keep waiting for this little girl part of me to go away. I'm just better and better at loving her and not letting her take over the wheel and drive the bus. Right? She doesn't need to drive, but I can love her, I can be sweet to her. And that's the practice again and again and again. It's like honoring, like, I get why I do this, but I know the impact of it. And so what will I choose? What am I going to choose instead in this moment?
The little boy in me has the story of, you don't cry for me, you don't choose me. And he drives really fast when he's driving. He drives away, and he drives fast, which is impractical. You should not drive fast when you're triggered. I mean that literally. I remember being mad at my girlfriend when I was like 18, and I was like, I'll drive fast, and then she'll know I'm mad. It's impractical, right? As opposed to just being like, hey, I'm hurting right now. And then I would drive slower, you know? It's so fascinating that like, it has, I'm 41, it has taken me years to be present to my feelings, to put words to them, to have compassion for when I don't do it right. And then asking the part that did do it right, like, hey, how can you do that better? Doing redos with the people that you do mess it up with.
I love a good redo.
That's so good.
I'm shocked at how many parents how many of you had parents that apologized to you when they fucked up? Beautiful.
Right.
It's a beautiful gift to give a little person to apologize to them when you fuck up. Parents fuck up all the time.
I'm
But
not
we
a
have
parent,
this idea,
so.
right? We have an idea of powerful, powerless, and the powerful don't apologize to powerless. That's what happens in family systems, and it's really, it creates the conditions then for no wonder it's so hard for us in an intimate partnership to know how to say, I have a redo. I don't like how I handled that moment.
Which is such a connective experience.
Oh, it really is.
And then you redo sex over and over. You should redo that again. On an airplane. I'm not done that. That just sounded like a good story. I guess we should probably open it up to the floor. We have, for questions, we have 4 books to give away from Alexandra. Is it a new book?
No, it's my old, it's my.
Oh, yeah, we can't give away the new book yet. That would be breaking the rules. So the Club and Break, which
The
is
new book isn't even, the new book is available for pre-order, but you can't put your hands on it yet.
so. I think you just got to put your hand up if you want to ask a question. I see one right here. Do we have a microphone somewhere? Don't we have a handheld mic? I think we do. Okay, sweet. Do we have someone to run that mic?
Somebody from the team taking.
I can't leave the live. Hey, what's up, guys? I can't leave the live feed.
Hi,
Hi, what's your name?
I'm Carissa.
Hi, Carissa.
I'm here for you.
Hi.
And I'm so honored to take this set because I feel like that's actually what I came here for.
That's nice. Thanks.
I
Okay.
sounded conscious.
Yeah. Right. Like you're so good, but that is probably the joke. Yeah. Hey, thanks for bringing me here. It's like we went on a date and then you started dating. That's great. Cool. Bye bye. Sorry.
Sorry, all your stuff is up.
You don't have to listen. Look at this, like, got rescued. Thank you. Okay, yeah.
Oh,
Do
you
that.
have a status.
Now you're like making me feel better.
Well, no, I'm saying that because I'm a parent. I'm a single parent. daily with my 4-year-old. He doesn't have special needs, but he's still a 4-year-old. He's like, this is fucking crazy, right? So just, it's like, it just really hit me what you just said, you know, like the video, and when I'm at that point where I'm actually yelling at a 4-year-old that is saying, you're scaring me, you know, and I don't know what else to do, you know, and you feel very alone in that. And like, nobody taught me how to do it, you know, so, and that's where you come in, because like, the relationship piece of, has been mind-blowing for me in dealing with my own breakup that happened last January. And just that breakup made me dive into my childhood and how my parents related and what I downloaded, all of the shit downloaded in that. So this is like actually a beautiful parenting. My question, this is why I have a microphone, right? Is how do you deal with these little people when they're 4? Because they do not understand, like they're in theta brainwave, they don't understand time. I'm the timekeeper, and I want to pull my hair out. I'm like, no, like you don't even understand time. I can't get you out the door. I can't do anything with you, right? And also, I'm like, I want to join you. I don't want to be in time either. Please, please.
I'll let the parent answer that first, and then I'll give my excellent parenting advice after. As an uncle. Yeah, right. Just give them candy, and then give them back to that. Oh wait, yeah.
Well, the first thing I want to do is honor the courage it takes to say out loud the thing that's hard to say. Saying that there are times I yell at my kid, and it's because what happens is it feels painful. And when we don't talk about it, the split continues. Sort of good mom, bad mom split continues. And the more I feel that I can't say out loud, sometimes I do and say things I'm not proud of with my kid, it just gives it more power, and the pattern won't change if you can't speak life into it. So you just took a huge step by saying out loud in front of all these people that this is the struggle you're having, because of course the struggle you're having. And as a single mom, I honor that you can't tag out. It is you. You are the start and you are the finish. And I think the way you said it is, to me, that's one of my most helpful tools is seeing myself through my kids' eyes. That's really grounding for me. Like to just literally in my mind's eye, look at how I look in that moment, and that's a really powerful way for me to just shut my mouth and just not do more, not say more. And what you're saying about, right, it's remembering that his little brain doesn't understand time. And that's, the book I love about this is called, it's Dan Siegel's book. Dan Siegel's book, Whole Brain Child. I love, because it's not, a lot of times parenting books are very moral, like moralistic, of this is good, this is bad, and they're very sort of strategic. Dan Siegel's book is all about the child. When we remember our child's developmental state and the behavior, we can create behaviors that kind of match that state. It's not a moral thing, it's just a sort of like what is needed given this. And I think with 4-year-olds it's also about like getting ahead of it, right? Like we're marching out the door, we're creating a fun ritual about like, you know, we're setting music, we're doing music, we're marching, we're dancing our way out the fucking door. You know, about like creating this energy of flow and play, which is hard when you're tired and it's hard when you're single mom. You can't always do it that way, but I know that's a piece of it. And caring for you, right? Taking care of you, making sure that your bucket is full, whatever that looks like. When we have more, you know, when we've taken care of ourselves, we have more to give, more wiggle room. I know when when my tongue gets sharp with my kids or with Todd, I know it's a check that I'm underslept, I'm poorly nourished, I'm under exercise. Like what is going on with the care and tending of me and the things I go through?
Yeah, I definitely noticed I was on Red Eye on Sunday night, and a guy moved up like 5 rows beside me getting off the plane, so I couldn't get up yet. And because I was so underslept, I was like, and I took a deep breath and like, you're just tired. I really wanted to say a lot of things. then you would have been like, I follow you. And I'm like, sure. Still with that. That's the one thing that comes to me too is just that I don't obviously know anything about your life or what's going on other than what you mentioned. But I think often we are taught to be selfless, we are taught to give, and that's especially married for women and mothers. And I would just look for where you might hold the opportunity to ask for support or help. And you might already be doing that. But just the possibility that what will allow you to nurture yourself, because I can't even imagine. I don't even know at all, so I in that way, of like that overextension of what it takes. But if there is a way to ask for more support and more help in areas of your life, or from people, and that's so hard to receive, We love, we're like, I'm so good at loving. And then someone's like, I love you. I'm like, hey, okay, I'm good at loving. I don't want to be loved. And that is such an alchemy when we finally let someone love us. When we finally ask for support. I have a friend who shared something that had hurt them last week. They shared it with me. And then I was like, well, you want that thing then? Let's do that. And he was like, well, no, I don't want it because I just told you. I want it because you want me to want it. I was like, listen, if you're going to tell me what you need, and then I give it to you, be excited that you finally need that, because I want to give it to you genuinely. And he was like, oh, okay, yeah, then it's like a pity, But we miss that. We miss that when you express it. It's not like you then get it. Isn't that weird when we actually get the thing? And then we're like, oh. Thank you for your question. Is that answer? You get a book? Yeah, you do get a book. I don't know where the book comes from. Here it is. Sweet. All right, another hand. I saw that one, and then we'll go backwards to right. Okay. Try it. Let them do something with it. It's such a powerful question that it broke the mic. Okay, you can yell it and then I'll repeat it. Okay. So I'm going to summarize that short. So how do you make the line between wanting to have a boundary and open your heart to someone potentially new that you're dating? How do you still hold on to yourself? Is that a good summary? Okay, perfect. Well, both of us love boundaries. They're our favorite. So you please.
Well, there's this image that a colleague of mine uses that I love, and it gets to this idea that it takes time. And so she's talking about in a new relationship, this sort of like unfolding. And I think different people get stuck in different places, right? For some people, the boundary is really tight and thick, and it's really hard to open up. Others of us want to open up right away and download right away. And part of it's like, you should know all this about me and then make a decision about whether or not we're going to continue.
Here's everything I want.
And then what do you do? So those are the extremes, right? There's sort of the really loose boundaries, like I give you, you haven't earned the right to my story, but I'm just going to give it to you anyways. And then the other extreme is a really tight boundary where it's really hard to let the wall down. And where you are on that spectrum is shaped by a lot of factors, from trauma to relationship history to culture to family system. Like it's all sort of knowing where you are on that spectrum, and knowing that it is, it's not that you have a boundary that's inside of you. It's contextual. It's always the boundary between the space the space between you and another. And this colleague of mine has this image of when you meet somebody, you sort of entertain them in your front yard, and you sort of watch how that is in the front yard. If they have good behavior and you have good behavior, then you let them into the foyer, right?
Well, they don't even get in that. They're just in the foyer. We call it foyer.
Foyer? What is it?
Yeah, yeah. I love that.
And then it's good behavior. So it sort of is a process. It's a dynamic unfolding, and it's a contextual piece. Like there's no such thing as my boundary. So what is the boundary I need of this relationship at this time? It's a dynamic process.
Yeah, that recognition that you have to know who, when you have lost yourself, to know what boundary is needed. You know, I love the idea that if we are already whole and a boundary is really just a preservation of our wholeness. That they become like, and that's the hardest thing in love, is how do I hold on to me and love you? And as Alexandra was saying, that we're either an island and we're independent, we got our shit together, right? And then you start dating and you're like, oh fuck, I don't have my shit together, but I read that book. But it's so different to apply knowledge than to have knowledge. And that's where knowledge becomes wisdom. And for boundaries, at least in my experience, is just look for where you have resentment. Anywhere you have resentment, you need a boundary, because resentment is 100% of the time because they are an external mirror that you do not prioritize yourself. And so in the dating experience, is starting to look at where can you allow someone in a little more, have they heard your story? That do I overshare versus, and then call it vulnerability. Love that one.
That's performative vulnerability, we call that.
Performative
Performative
vulnerability.
vulnerability.
It's like a theatrical, yeah, and it confirms our story. I'm too much.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so here it all is. And then they're like, oh God, we're not just had pizza. I want all the pop. You know, and that's that idea that a boundary is not only about protection, it's actually about containment. It's about holding on to yourself. Well, that takes meditation, that takes figuring out who you are, what you like, what you don't like, doing an inventory of your past relationships and being like, okay, what have I actually learned? And when I get people to write a list of everything they want, and then I have them do an audit of their past relationships, it's usually like 40%, 50% of what they want. They've never actually done that hard look. And so I would just look for your past. Where have I lost myself? Where do I exist? What are my values? Because you can't put boundaries around anything if you don't know what you value. But when you feel a value get compromised, or you becoming someone you don't want to be, then you know it's time to learn and to express, which is such a courageous act. And that is such a courageous act to protect ourselves. Especially if we've been like, just learn to be a doormat, or learn to be an island. I mean, both of those are such acts of courage to be like, oh, I'm just gonna like open this little crack in my heart for you. And that's not simple, that requires so much. Like the first time you tell someone like you like them, when you're kids, that was like really exciting. But as adults, even if someone doesn't message us back on an app, we're like fractured. But that shows you that it's like, you know, that saying that if it's hysterical, it's historical. And that's something that someone not messaging you back, like, bye. You're like, when someone ghosts us, it's so painful, of course, if there's been a deep relationship. But we also get ghosted by people all the time, you know, in these experiences. And not making it about us. I think that's such the key. You know, sometimes it is about us, though, right? And being able to know when it is. And the best people to ask that to are your friends.
I was just going to say, that was where I was going to go with it, is sort of talking with friends, like how do you experience me in intimate partnership, right? So you've got your group of friends sort of watching you go in and out of relationships, talking to them about it, and sort of imagining that spectrum from the island to the doormat. Where do you see me and what? But then always remembering that your friend's experience of you is of course shaped through where they are on that spectrum, right? There's no such thing as a capital T objective truth, but that conversation about like sort of, and then a sort of comparison, like you and the friend are talking about where you each are on that spectrum and why and how to come to be, and then you just have more data to bring in. And the more awareness you have inside of yourself, then it's easier to tell, especially in a dating relationship, what's mine, what's yours, what's ours. That just gets clear. The clearer you are on your side of the street, where your wounds lie, what your tendencies are, it's so much easier to sift out, is it a red flag? Am I seeing an actual red flag in that other person? Or is this the thing I do? This is the thing I do. I start to catch feelings, I want this, I'm aware of this, and then I shut it down. So if you know that's what you do, that's where you go, that's how you cope with the tremendous vulnerability that comes with liking somebody.
Liking them.
Yeah.
Like, I like you is big.
It's big, and it's, I mean, yeah, it's, yeah. And so then, but that becomes more tolerable as you feel like you can really work with what's on your side of the street, as you're saying, then it's less than what the other person does or doesn't do, doesn't hold the power to devastate you.
Yeah, like when your own behavior determines your worth, then their behavior is independent of your value. Right? Like if you know you're showing up as a good person, being kind and graceful, but also holding standards, then if someone leaves your life, they don't take you with them. But I would imagine, show of hands, who here has lost themselves when someone's left? Right. And that is when you are present to who you are. You experience all of you because they're not in the space that you gave them, that you need to occupy, that only we can fill. That's so different than what we learned growing up, isn't it? I love that with your stand, just keep saying that.
The last thing I want to say about this too is the gender piece. Terry Real, who's one of our favorite teachers and a therapist in this work, he talks about there's for women there's a different so women went from thousands and thousands of years of silence, passivity, powerlessness under patriarchy, and then this new wave, right, of finding voice, of having power, being able to even occupy public spaces. There's a way in which we are at risk of almost overcorrecting, and the sort of now we have this sort of notion of the independent woman, right? Nobody can get to her, and she's all on her own. So it's almost like the pendulum has swung so far here that we overvalue personal empowerment. Like, you're nothing to me, you don't get a vote, it's all me. And we need to kind of move into a space of relational empowerment, which is I can hold you in warm regard and myself in warm regard. I can stand up for me without putting you down. That's a really different, it's very different than personal empowerment, relational empowerment.
I love that. Or you can pick who, go further back though. Sorry if you're in the front. You're like, fuck that.
Hi.
Oh, look up here.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Tiffany from Western and my sister who's a former Western Wildcat, so she dragged me here and both cats.
Yeah.
And of course, you follow you are.
The cats, they sound great.
Just last night I was DMing my sister, like, oh my God, Clark, you read this? No available in Chicago, none. It's even worse in New York City. Anyway, my question actually is switching gears to kind of like an entrepreneurial wellness space. How do you, where do I begin with this? Like how, we're in an overly saturated social media world where buzzwords like authenticity and vulnerability exist, and there's so much of this are coming at you. Yeah. And when I hear each of you speak, it really rings true to me. And I guess the question is, how do you, in your messaging, stay grounded and rooted in your truth and your messaging, and not get sidetracked, with the volume of this, buzzword worthy industry that this is. And fortunately now this is so overwhelming and big and a big topic, and we're talking about it at your parents' age. You just kind of stuffed it down and didn't deal with it. It was very oppressed, but now so it's awesome, but it's also kind of I'm in nation, I'm doing yoga clothes and being vulnerable. It's great. So I just love to hear kind of how do you not compare or stay rooted in your truth as you have this career and it's people.
What a great question, because again, that's sort of how do I stay true to me? I'm not trying to get an outcome. When I first started posting, so it'd be 6 years ago, if I posted a poem about female empowerment, that post is going to do well. I like considering the environment 6 years ago, but now too. And there was a moment where I remember, I think I had like 750 followers, but I got, you like lose some and you're like, oh my God, 11 people left me. Now like 5,000 people unfollow me a week. You have to like not attach your worthiness to those things, right? Because if people don't like you, that's actually a good sign. My sister told me that, and I was like, can they just like some people, like a little kid, and he's like, but I want 100%. But then you're not doing great work, because you're not challenging the way people think. So I made it a moment, I remember that, I was like, I could post what is true for me, or I could post what will do well. And then I just made the intention of each post to just change one life. And that actually was satisfied just by someone liking it. And so inevitably I would get a comment that was like, I needed this today. That was enough. That was with one person. That was enough. And then that post performed well, And I have a friend named Brian Reeves, who's an incredible writer. Yeah, he's on Instagram too. He has a podcast called Men This Way, I believe it's called. And I remember saying to him, how do you write such amazing, like beautiful things? And he said, there's not a moment that I press publish that I'm not terrified. And he said, I write from the edge of my truth. And so truth is also this sort of like big word, right? And if I say like, my truth is, people go, oh, that's some true shit. But I think it's allowing it to evolve too, right? And to honor someone else's truth, even if it's in conflict with our own. And by giving space for someone else's truth to exist with yours, you're allowing yours to exist, right? Like you're honoring the same thing you hope that someone else will honor in you. So for me, it is all about just telling the truth for me. And I was telling Alexandra Solomon quote that I heard, that he said, I hope that I live with the integrity that the truth that lives within me is manifest in the truth that lives outside of me. And when those two are not true, when I'm not outwardly expressing my internal truth, then I give a mixed message, one of both love and one of fear. And I have given mixed messages for sure, because what's true for me is always evolving. Like my work began as work strictly about relationships. But through this recent experience, I have felt like I want to talk about all of it. I want to talk about this relationship to ourselves that we are constantly in search for, what is true for us. So for me, it is just about telling the truth. And for someone who grew up in a religious household, that can be, I was told this, and I always knew that this other part of it, right? It can be anything in my culture, and my experience, and and so it's just yours, because to someone else, truth means differently than I'm writing this post so that you'll like it, and I'm in this great pair of shorts, and you can see, whatever you can see. That's up to you guys, and this is the whole day they become on this stuff. That holds in mind if you don't. But that's my point, is right? It's like you can feel sort of the vibration at which the experience is happening. And that's why when you meet someone, you can tell if they're being honest to you or not.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time working on this whole knot, right? I've been doing, so I've been a psychologist for almost 2 decades, and from the beginning of my career, I always loved the translational stuff. So I work within this ivory tower, Family Institute, Northwestern University, these are institutions. I'm very happy in an institution. But I've always loved translating research or translating clinical theory to the general public. And when I started my career, the only ways to do that was to be on TV or to be interviewed by a journalist, or there were really limited ways in which you could translate relationship science, clinical theory out into the world. And so it's a growing edge as my platform has grown, as social media has grown, to figure out when to say yes and when to say no, and it really is ultimately physiological. I know when I have a no inside of me, and I watch my mouth say yes. I know that, and I, you
I
know,
know that too, yeah.
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 Doesn't feel great. And in my yes, that when I feel a no, that I say a yes, it's because I'm living in a scarcity mentality, right? I feel like I have to say yes because if I don't say yes, I come up with all these sort of stories of what happens if I don't say yes. And so I'll override what I feel inside of me as a no. So that's one piece of it, is just really trying to like listen from within about what is this, do I want this, or am I doing this, I feel like I should do this, or if I don't do it, then somebody else will do it and I'll regret me, all this kind of stuff. And then the other thing is just getting increasingly comfortable taking risks. Like my team and I were just working on this article, and I write for Psychology Today, and I was like, oh my God, this piece is like just going viral. Like I had this whole, I was just like, this piece is like magic. I really, as I was writing it, I was like emotional. It was so coming from a place really quite deep within me. And then it has gone like nowhere. It's just like, wah, like you just went nowhere. And so I could go down a whole rabbit hole about why that happened and or I can just kind of laugh at it and be like, that is when we take these risks and put ourselves out there, it has to be with a willingness to know that not everything is going to land, and so there's a detaching from the end result as part of it. And then I think what helps is that I'm really experience driven. So the experience of writing that article with my team, we had a great meeting, we had a really fun conversation. Like I can kind of anchor back in on the experience because I had fun and it didn't go anywhere, but it was sure fun for me, and my team and I kind of got to know each other better through the conversation we had. I think that helps too, just appreciating the process and detaching from the outcome, because the outcome isn't known and it can't be known. And so there's always a risk that has to be balanced against self-compassion and just appreciation of the opportunity.
I think this comes back to everything we do, which is, are you doing it for the applause, or are you doing it for the expression? You know, because your people will find you. When there's 5 billion people on the planet? You don't need that many to have a business. Actually, don't. Seth Godin has a free podcast on that where he talks about how you only need 100 people who love what you do, so you're a great life. And it's all free, except if you look on where we listen to podcasts. How much time do we have this one? Or do we don't have time? We have 4 minutes. It's just enough time for a very brief, very quick, you get to pick so that you're that person.
The waving hand.
There's some contact with rejection.
Is this thing on? All right.
Yeah, yeah. 3:22.
Hi.
Let's see here. I want to know what advice you would give someone who lacks self-love or has low self-esteem, that's kind of low self-worth.
I mean, I can do this one quickly. I would ask oneself in each moment, if I loved myself, what would I do? So literally that becomes, if I loved me, what choice would I make this morning, this moment, this conversation, the way I show up? And I would build rituals that are around transforming that. When you go for a walk, you are saying, I love me. When you set a boundary, you're saying, I love me. Self-worth is not a destination, you know, it's not like we get there and I'm like, fuck yeah, I love me, I did it, right? Because, right, it could just as easily the next day I make a poor choice and I don't love me, and I feel shame. It's just about starting to make better choices and keeping, as you make a poor choice, you don't see it as a mistake, you see it as an opportunity, but you must learn. That's the thing, is we must expand from our experiences. Pain lives within us when we don't alchemize it to transformation. You know, there's a difference between suffering and just experiencing. Suffering is staying in the pain, but grief and pain and sadness are normal. It's just what we do with them. So I would say self-love is cultivated through working out, through beautiful conversations, lovely friends who have the same values as you, and all those types of things.
This is an easy, obvious place to do a shout out for therapy. And maybe with this community, I don't need to shout out therapy. Because what what lack of self-love is the shame-loaded story, and shame cannot survive the light of relationship, and therapy is a relationship. And I work with the Family Institute, which is right down the road. We have an office 8 South Michigan Avenue, Evanston. The beautiful thing is it's a huge practice. There are therapists who work with people on a sliding scale that is based on someone's income. So we see clients for $3, or it's based on it's or we take Blue Cross Blue Shield. There's all kinds of options. But therapy, you don't need to have a thing to go to therapy. You can go to therapy with just sort of a general question about I really don't feel like I love myself. I want to unpack my self-esteem, because my lack of self-esteem. There are stories upon stories of how it came to be. There's a voice you have inside your head that you self-narrate in a way that is cruel. You need to understand whose voice that was. Where did that start? Whose story was that about you? So that to me is a beautiful, just that in and of itself is a beautiful question to take to a therapist and go from there.
Sweet. Well, I want to honor time, so if anyone needs to go, you can go right now. And if you get everyone to like, why are you going? And you're leaving, you can go. So this is a good, wow, the honkers are really excited. This is a good opportunity, speaking of self-love. We are doing another book club. And the book club that we're doing starts on the launch date. The launch date of your book is February 2nd, but it starts on February 3rd. And we do 6 weeks where we read through the book, and every week we explore different subjects on the book, video and exercises with hiitide. We use the app for that. And we have 6-7 weeks, but we're taking one off for Christmas till then. And we're going to explore things like the inner child, things like that on each week on the platform. There's a community. So if you guys decide that you want to sign up for that, we will send out the link. That's probably the easiest, right? With the coupon code, because it's $42 when you start on February. And also, if you do want to shift the underlying for 30 days of where we do yoga, everyone at the start of the year is like, I'm going to do a diet, I'm going to exercise now, I'm going to change this thing. And I'm like, it's about changing the belief that lives below the thing. And so we get into why it exists and how to change it. And the fastest, as I said, one of the fastest ways to change a belief is to choose its opposite. Is to just choose its opposite. Because you short circuit the belief. It's instantly not available in that moment, but it's consistently doing that. That's actually hard. So we'll send out that link too for you guys. And it's $197, but I'll give you guys a $50 off code. So yeah.
There are four.
Yeah,
so there are four people here from my team, and they're wearing Taking Sexy Back t-shirts. That's the name of the new book. So the new book is a journey through your relationship with your sexual self. And that was the book I was really called to write. I'm so excited about where you will go with the book club. I'm excited about what's possible. And that's the book will be about is your sexual self. And how did you come to the belief where your boundaries are?
And I know that a lot of people, whenever I do something about sex, it's like, yeah, I don't really want to like touch, ironically touch that thing. I don't really want to go there, but I invite you to go there because this book is technically written for a female audience, but as a male who has read it, I learned a ton from it. It also has a chapter just for men. Like that, as a female, you give it, if you're in a heteronormative relationship, you give it to a male partner. And it is such a beautiful book. And I can tell you with certainty that you will learn so much because when I read it, I couldn't believe all the current science that it's not. All the message, all the things that were taught about sex that were not taught, any recovering Catholics here? Yeah. Otherwise, we're just not talking about it. When you go to have sex, you won't know what to do. But you're supposed to be good at it. That's an irony. So this is an opportunity to have a hard conversation in the safety of a community on an app, and we're gonna have fun while we do it. I mean, like, what a cool assignment. You get to learn about sex as part of your class. And maybe one of the assignments will be like, go do that thing. Or go self-pleasure. What a great assignment. Can you imagine as a kid in school, they're like, you want to go on a semester? Or like, that is insane. Some people are like, that is too much.
Especially if you have, especially if you have a vulva to raise a woman, that is not something that we talk about. But how the hell are you supposed to know how somebody else can score you feeling good if you have no clue what your own, how you desire clothes and how to feel? Yeah.
I mean, just the reaction to go masturbate is like, what?
Are we done yet? I love
Right.
you.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, let's wrap this up. Another good pun. Okay. Thank you for being here. Thank you to High Tide. Thank you to VIBEUP. Thank you to Dr. Solomon. I love you. There are no mistakes. There are no accidents. We are all here in this exact moment for a reason. And I invite you as some homework to go do the thing I mentioned earlier, and also to get still and to ask what music you still have that you have not shared. And you can have all the reasons why you don't want to, but I want you to find the reason to. And you have people who are sitting beside you who will be your greatest fan because they're here. So this is an opportunity to build a different community or a greater community, like a bigger community. And I also invite you to explore what conversations that you're avoiding in your life that are hard. And make a list. Maybe start with the easiest one first. But you will never find more freedom than using your voice. And as Alexandra said before, it's not about how the outcome of the conversation, it's actually about the process of having it. The more you use your voice, the more you will feel empowered by it and by yourself. So let's all have a conversation.
Well, I'm going to tell you commit to what you're going to do.
And the conversation you're gonna have, right? Share it. You're like, okay, I'm gonna do this thing. And then you'll hold each other accountable. And then let's give each other a hug. Love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.